All right, Mark here, and welcome to another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. So today is Wednesday, and we're going to be going over Bitcoin, the major markets, and select stocks. If you have questions, please ask me during the analysis, and I'll try to answer them the best that I can. But again, I'm trying to keep this at around 15 minutes. For questions that I can't fully answer, I'll follow up in the chat room. Okay, and for those of you that may be new and that may be watching this for the first time, make sure you click on the subscribe button for this channel. And every time I do one of these on the channel, you should get an email notification from YouTube. Okay, with that being said, let's get started. So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. All right, straight to Bitcoin. Wow, interesting. So we been talking about this. We had a sell signal the other day, right? Monday. And what did I say? For people that follow my analysis closely, I said, we will not react to this. I wrote this on TradingView as well. We will not react to this. And the reason is sell signals carry very little weight in this environment. What environment am I talking about? The environment of higher lows, the price structure. So we have a higher low over here around this 5,800 area, whatever that is. Higher low over here around the 6,500 area. And now we have another little mini higher low. This is a strong candle. We close like this. This thing is most likely going to push this resistance, which it's been flirting with for about, what, 2 weeks now? So again, very good sign here. Not good if you're short. Not good if you react or if you follow all these bears who don't know what they're doing. This is not an environment to be shorting. So we don't short anyway. We don't short Bitcoin. But this thing should break out. We have the aggressive swing trade that we shared about a week ago or whatever it was. And when we have our original trade from 57.50, and we just let them ride and we let the market determine the outcome of those trades. The next move for this thing should be in the low 7Ks, in theory anyway. Now, if Bitcoin doesn't agree and it turns, it needs to take out the 64.25 level to even begin to be bearish, okay? That's why I'm so confident with the bullish side. The structure hasn't been taken out, and that's where I get my information from. I don't get it from people. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let's go over to the stock market. I want to take a look here again at the NASDAQ 100. Interesting situation there. Maybe there's a correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market. I don't like to believe that there is because that changes so fast. But there could be one, all right? And it could be temporary. But either way, it doesn't matter. I'm following the price action. So there was this sell signal in the NASDAQ inside of this resistance zone. So that made sense. But again, we can't give them as much weight because we have this support at 8,000 that needs to be cleared in order for sell signals to really carry weight, which means they may go to a point, if you're day trading, fine, you grab what you can. But look at this, reversal in everyone's face. This is for people that get short too early. Now, we actually shared a swing trade short on the IWM, which is the Russell 2000. It was at a very aggressive signal, but we compensated for this possibility. How? By only going with 1% risk, okay? Because we know that there's a chance that this can happen here, and that's why we won't go with a full position in this type of situation, right? So we compensated for this. If it gets stopped out, well, it's 1%. But, we took the signal. It was an aggressive area. It was an aggressive idea, looking for this potential to the 8,000 area. Again, that's on the IWM, which moves basically the same as the NASDAQ, but, it's actually it's relatively weaker. That's why we chose that one. Anyway, this is a sign of strength. We close like this. That's a nice higher low off of this 83.70 area. In theory, this should also push to a higher high. Again, for people who follow news and think that logic dictates where markets go, eventually you're going to find out that it won't agree. That concept won't agree with your account very long. Randomly it will, but not consistently. All right, so that's the NASDAQ, nice and strong there, looking for a higher high. Great for stocks, okay? Another opportunity to unload, take partial profits if you haven't on that initial pullback. I would still be looking, I wouldn't be looking to put on a lot of new positions. I would still be looking to take partials. Same with the DAX. Here's the DAX. All right, hesitation here. Now, what do I say about the DAX? For those of you that follow these, The DAX follows the S&P, it follows the NASDAQ. Whatever they do, this is going to do, right? It doesn't really deviate from them. So the price action itself isn't really that meaningful for us, but we do want to pay attention to the general formations. This formation is a sign of strength. We have a higher low over here, which I've talked about, okay, around that 9,300 area. We have another higher low developing here around this 10,200 area. And this thing can, if the NASDAQ breaks out, this thing is likely to break out as well, okay? And you can see this thing take out this high around this 10,850. Great for European denominated assets. Again, if you haven't partialed out of those, if you have any, again, that's what you do in these situations. Unless you're on very small time frames, which is a different story, which is what I'm not covering here. But either way, this is a sign of strength and a positive sign. Again, I don't care what's going on in the economy. I don't care what's going on in the news. I follow price action because that's the reality. That's how people are voting with their money, because there are people out there who have much better information than we do. Big people that can move markets. Okay, so now that's that. Let's take a look here at oil, because we've been watching oil very carefully. Oil's been really wild in recent times, very wild. We had a swing trade that we had sent out like a week ago, never triggered, right? That was up here. Good thing it never triggered, because this instrument, this is the instrument that we use, WTI CO, which is this is the Owanda CFD. But Forex.com has one. Everyone has their own CFD. The Forex.com one, I believe, went to zero. So great if you're short, but not so good if you are long. So we're watching this for a long. We have an inside bar here. Now, why would we go long? The structure is still weak, right? Lower highs, lower lows, no question, bearish structure. But where is oil? Is oil really going to go to zero? Commodities just don't do that, okay? So it's just overly bearish. It's in an oversold area, but you can't just jump in blindly either. So we need some sort of confirmation. If we take out the high of this inside bar, which is 1471, or basically start pushing 15, that would be a buy signal, and a very aggressive buy, but the potential for this thing to run, even into the low 20s, right? Just trying to grab that little retrace is definitely worth a swing trade, especially since we don't have to risk that much to do it. Okay, so yes, it's counter trend, but like in that previous swing trade that I sent out that never triggered, we would take a small position, right, 1% as an aggressive trade if we see that type of confirmation. That can occur, sometime in the evening or maybe early in the, early hours tomorrow. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on oil if you trade the CFDs, because it's in a great location. How often do you see it at these prices? You just can't blindly jump in. I can't repeat that enough. I get calls from people asking me, oh, I heard oil's at all-time lows. Should I just buy? No, you don't just buy, okay? You need confirmation, and we don't have it yet. But if we get something, we're open. We're open for the swing trade. We have an open mind, I should say, for the swing trade and that bullish potential, even though the trend is bearish. All right. Now, let's go take a look at gold. We had a swing trade trigger in gold. Now, the chart that I'm going to show here is the CFD, which is XAU. But Andrew in the chat room was talking about GDX. He was also talking about GLD. Those are the tickers that you can use for stocks, right? If you're trading the ETF or ETN, that's your stock trigger. That's your stock instrument that can give you some, position in gold. Now, why does he like gold? Well, look at this pin bar, bullish pin bar, higher low off of this level right here, which is 1660. We were watching for something like this. Okay, it took out that pin bar high. This thing's on its way. Now, gold is clearly, there's nothing bearish about gold. Okay, nothing. This thing's just been making higher lows and higher highs. We had that nasty pullback, but since then, the thing is just going, higher. And that's the idea behind that. Makes sense. In theory, this thing should take out this high, which is 17.5, 1750 area. All right, in the next few days. There could be a little noise in between, but that's a reasonable trade idea. This thing can easily, if it takes out that high aggressively, especially if shorts have to rush in and cover, you can see 18 pretty quick. 1800 or high 1700s pretty quick in this thing. So That was a swing trade he shared earlier. Again, if you're in the Eurozone, GLD is probably the more appropriate instrument compared to GDX, because I know there's been some confusion with that. All right, so that's gold. Nice idea there. Again, if you're new, you have to check out the chat room for those trade details, because Andrew put the chart in the chat room there. All right, another one I want to go over really quick, the euro. So this is one that I was talking about earlier, and I said it was a possible long idea. Now you notice I don't just come out and say it's a long, because there was no confirmation. It was a possibility. We never got the confirmation. Now look, this thing looks like garbage, right? This bearish candle here. So we step aside and we do nothing. We wait. Okay, is this a short? This is a tough spot. I mean, it may be a short, but here's the problem with the euro. It's in a range, right? So it's consolidating. It's in this tight coiling range. It's nearer these lows, which are support levels, like the 108s, the 108.50s, whatever, those areas. Those are support levels. I'd rather not take a short into such a level, unless you're like in a day trade again, but we're not talking about day trades. We're talking about swing trades. So my reward risk makes more sense on the bullish side. Now there's no signal here. There's no confirmation. There's nothing. So I step aside and wait. The reason why I'm pointing this out is, again, you don't take these things prematurely just on the idea alone, right? We need confirmation. We need a trigger. We need a few criteria to be met before we can get into such a position. That's why we're very specific when we send out our swing trades, with the text message and the prices to get in, the prices to get out, all that stuff in advance. That's how a trade is set up. You don't just take them on a feeling or on an emotional reaction. All right, that's the euro. Now, I want to go over some stocks. If you have a question on a stock or something, now would be a good time to ask. I want to go over ROKU. Okay, now ROKU, and I'd actually like to talk about Starbucks also. Actually, let me do Starbucks first, and then I'll do ROKU. I have a little time here. Look at Starbucks, SBUX, right? We have the higher low here at 71.5, following the market, right? And we have a higher low here. This is a nice V bottom recovery. A lot of people are saying, oh, there's not going to be a V bottom. Well, yeah, there's a V bottom. You can't have opinions, okay? Now, we take out this high of 77.5. That's a breakout. Where can this thing go? The low 80s. That's not a bad, that's not a bad potential right there, considering the risk you have to face. About 7 points of risk, possibly, maybe 8 points. If this thing pushes 77, can this thing at least make 7 points? Well, it'd have to go to 84. Where is 84? Up over here. That's actually an old resistance. So that one-to-one reward risk exists in this thing. Now, I'm not saying this is a swing trade and that we're going to get into this thing right now, but I know some people were interested in Starbucks. If you're in it, not a bad thing to just hold on and let this thing ride until it gives you a real reason to sell. Okay? That's just not there yet. This thing's going to break out. Great for day trade, by the way, if people are day trading this thing. But again, I'm not talking about that. So that's Starbucks. Great position. Now, the other one was ROKU. All right? Now, ROKU has been wild. And I said, in the chat room the other day, I said, wow, I'd love to get into this thing. But do we want to get into it at these prices? No, right? We have this outside bar. It's not exactly an outside bar, but it's the same idea, right? Because it didn't fully engulf the range of this previous candle. But now we're getting an inside bar, all right? This is actually setting up for a sell signal like the NASDAQ was yesterday. And we don't know if we'll get that sell signal. But the idea with ROKU is I want to see the pullback to 105. Okay, so I got a question. What do you think about ACB trade? Oh, great question. Great question, Bella. ACB. Okay, wait, no, so hold on. Before I go into ACB, just real quick, I just want stocks. What a pain they have been. Okay, so here's ACB. I mentioned a trade at 89 cents, and that was around here. It was trying to develop that higher low. We never got the higher low, right? I mean, it tried, but it didn't stay, right? So it took out that little higher low and it pulled back a little further. Here's the thing, Bella, to answer your question, the stop's at 45 cents. So I'm going to give it that chance. I mean, in theory, this chart is bearish. I mean, there's no question. It's an aggressive trade. That higher low should have taken out this high. It should have gone to like the 104 or whatever that is there. But this pullback isn't really overly dramatic either. I mean, what's ACB going to do? Go to zero? So I'm willing to give it to that 45-cent stop, and I'm just going to sit in it. These things require a lot of patience, and some news could come out of nowhere, and next thing you know, this thing will be at $2. I mean, that's the way you got to play it, and that's what I'm going by. So, also if we just we could form a double bottom in this 60-cent area. It's possible. I'd love to see that because we would have a higher low then relative to this low back here, which is, what is that? Like 59 cents or something like that. So it's a cheap stock. It's like, really we should be willing to ride that to zero. But, on that note, if you take a look at like CGC, which is the leader in the space, CGC is still flirting with that resistance level, right? It tried to break on 420, which was, the cannabis holiday or whatever, but it didn't quite do it. But it's still lingering, which is a good sign. It hasn't taken out this little trend line here yet, and it hasn't pulled back to this relevant support. So if this thing breaks out, that could be a positive sign for ACB, and that's really what I'm looking for. Just some more positive news to come into the sector. Again, it's a garbage sector, and you can't really be too enthusiastic about it. You just have to be patient, okay, if that makes sense. So good question. Any other questions? And thanks for joining me, by the way. Any other questions about any stocks that I went over here real quick? All right, because I'm pretty much at my time here. Bella, thanks for joining me and asking the question. If anyone else has questions, please, you can share them in the chat room, and I'll be happy to follow up there. I hope this answered your question in a complete way. Other than that, everyone, have a great day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you there. Okay, bye.